Adam Epstein, and this is The Dispatch. The Veep stakes have been won, folks, and we can now count on Kamala. That's right. Dispatcher's Joe Biden, as you know, has made his vice presidential selection, and it's Senator Kamala Harris of California, a former attorney general from the Golden State who was the first woman of color, daughter of a Jamaican father and Indian mother, to be on a national ticket. With Harris's selection, some vice presidential history has been made. If elected, Harris would be the first black woman and the first person of Indian descent, South Asian descent, to hold the job of being vice president. Now, Harris, of course, ran for president herself last year, being one of only 3 black women to seek the White House as a nominee of the Democratic Party in our country's history. She followed in the footsteps of trailblazer New York Congresswoman Shirley Chisolm and former Illinois Senator Carol Moseley Braun. With Harris's nod, there have now been only 3 women to have ever been nominated as vice president of either major party. In 1984, New York Congresswoman Geraldine Ferraro would make history as the first woman ever nominated when she became Walter Mondale's running mate. Former governor of Alaska, Sarah "You Betcha" Palin, was tapped by John McCain to be his number 2 in 2008. The Mondale-Ferraro ticket and the McCain-Palin ticket would be defeated, however, the former losing to Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush, and the latter, of course, to Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Yet, the vice presidency, for all of the hype and the hoopla that goes on every 4 years when we choose them, is a sort of curio in American history. Before our modern era, where Veeps have often acted as veritable partners to the presidents they serve, the role of the vice president was, shall we say, limited in scope and power, and actually often subject to ridicule. You've heard the old saying, what does a vice president do? They go to funerals. Well, as one of Franklin Roosevelt's VPs, John Nance Garner, crudely but famously put it, the vice presidency is, quote unquote, not worth a bucket of warm spit. That's right. The VP is next in line to the presidency, and they are also constitutionally the president of the Senate. They can break tie-breaking votes in the Senate 50-50 in that chamber. But did you know this? In creating the Electoral College to choose a president, the Founding Fathers decided each elector should submit 2 names, with the runner-up becoming vice president. Right? So in the period before there were not formal parties in the way we know them now, we didn't have Democrat and Republican parties, we had loose associations, the possibility of 2 winners with opposing views having to work together happened, right? There was no consideration given to it. John Adams, then known as a Federalist, was elected president in 1796. His rival, Thomas Jefferson, then known as an anti-Federalist, was elected vice president, forcing them to serve together. The problem was corrected in the 12th Amendment, which wasn't till 1804, and it provided for a separate nomination and election of each office. The modern shift of the VP role towards something more substantial really began in 1972, though, when Democratic presidential nominee George McGovern's choice of a running mate, Senator Thomas Eagleton of Missouri, who later was found to have a history of mental illness, which was a stigma viewed as politically hazardous at the time, by the way, was dropped from the ticket and replaced by former head of the Peace Corps, Sergeant Shriver. 4 years later, Democratic presidential nominee, a moderate former governor of Georgia named Jimmy Carter, did not want a repeat of the Eagleton fiasco. So he had all the prospective vice presidential nominees scrutinized and interrogated, a lot like we do today, and he interviewed 6 or 7 himself, choosing Senator Walter Mondale of Minnesota for his experience in the Senate and to shore up Carter's own liberal flank. Mondale had prepared a paper. He was so specific on how he visualized the role of the vice president, and as a result, he was the first to be given an office in the West Wing and total access to the Oval Office as sort of a general presidential advisor and partner. This set the mode, and the pattern was followed notably by President Bill Clinton with Al Gore, George W. Bush with Dick Cheney, and Barack Obama with Joe Biden. Now, in picking Harris, Biden is assuring us of 2 key things. First off, he wants a real partner, someone who is likely to challenge him and engage in lively debate, question his assumptions, as he put it this week. Indeed, they were rivals for this year's presidential nod, where Harris famously and bitingly attacked Biden for his votes on racial busing back in the 70s. But second, Biden would be 82 at the end of his first term, making it likely that a Vice President Harris might just be the 2024 presidential nominee, or at least have a serious shot at it. As history has shown, fierce primary debates, like the one where Harris went after Biden on the sensitive issue of race, are hardly uncommon. And just to clarify, Harris and Biden themselves attest to the absence of any hard feelings and remain close colleagues and friends, hence her pick, right? To the contrary, though, JFK and LBJ loathed one another. Kennedy needed Texas, so he nominated LBJ in 1960, and they carried the Lone Star State that November. In 1980, Reagan and George H.W. Bush, that was Bush 41, were bitter foes, with Bush labeling Reagan's tax agenda voodoo economics. You guys may remember that of a certain age, Ferris Bueller fans, when Ben Stein, famously as the teacher, would say, something D-O-O economics, something D-O-O economics. That was trickle-down economics. That's George H.W. Bush's moniker for the policy of the man he ended up serving for 8 years. Nonetheless, they ran 1-2 terms and the rest is history. Kamala Harris is a fearless fighter, of course, and a zesty and vigorous debater with prosecutorial prowess that's nearly peerless. Watch the clips of her lacerating Bill Barr, Jeff Sessions, and Brett Kavanaugh, if you have any doubts. Most of all, in the wake of Hillary's painful defeat in 2016, Kamala will not take any prisoners. She's equally at home with law and order mantras of the law enforcement world. She's also very comfortable with the dynamic progressivism that is the future of the Democratic Party. In the best sense of what it means to be a Democrat, Kamala has fought hard and tirelessly for the less fortunate, the marginalized, the left out, and the forgotten. She's not afraid, amen, to be a strong woman. And as our political world is changing, becoming more female, more diverse, not only along the lines of gender, of course, but race, ethnicity, and sexuality, Kamala is more than well suited to claim the mantle. In choosing her to join him in the race to vanquish Trumpism, Biden sees the future and the one he will leave behind. And in the form of Kamala Harris, he's given the Democratic Party an avatar. I'm Adam Epstein, and this is The Dispatch.